Welcome to a Wise Hooter Learning video. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
In history, some names shine brighter. Nellie Bly is one of them. She was a force of nature who refused to accept the limits placed on women. Born May 5, 1864 in Cochran's Mills, Pennsylvania. Elizabeth Cochran, she became Nellie Bly and set out to change journalism. She believed stories could expose injustice and inspire change. Instead of reporting from the sidelines, she lived her stories, risking her safety to uncover the truth. Her immersive, daring approach redefined journalism and opened doors for generations of women. Nellie Bly proved that courage and determination could break any barrier. Her legacy is a powerful reminder. One person's voice can change the world. Elizabeth Jane Cochran grew up in a world that told women to stay silent. But she was curious, bold, and driven by justice. Outraged by a sexist newspaper column, she wrote a fiery letter as Lonely Orphan Girl. The editor was so impressed, he offered her a job, shocked to discover she was a young woman. As Nellie Bly, she refused to be confined to women's pages, pushing for stories that mattered. Her empathy for the underdog fueled her ambition and her fearless reporting. Nellie's pen became a weapon for progress, leading her to legendary assignments. Nellie Bly pioneered undercover investigative reporting. Her most famous act, feigning insanity to expose abuse at Blackwell's Island Asylum, shocked the nation and forced reforms. She didn't just chase headlines, she fought for justice. Her immersive journalism set a new standard, inspiring generations of reporters. Bly's adventures didn't stop there. She raced around the world in 72 days, captivating millions. She became a symbol of modern, adventurous womanhood. Nellie Bly proved journalism could be bold, empathetic, and world-changing. Her legacy endures. Words, wielded bravely, can change the world. Elizabeth Cochran, nicknamed Pinky, grew up in a lively Pennsylvania family. Her father's fairness and respect for others shaped her sense of justice. When he died without a will, her family faced hardship and insecurity. Elizabeth watched her mother struggle against an unjust system that left women vulnerable. Experiencing poverty firsthand gave her deep empathy for the struggling and poor. These early lessons fueled her desire to help others. Even as a child, she dreamed of a life beyond society's expectations. That empathy would become the driving force behind her future work. After her father's death, Elizabeth's family life turned harsh. Her mother's remarriage brought abuse and fear, teaching Elizabeth about injustice and the need for a voice. Testifying in court as a teenager, she learned to speak truth even when it was hard. Financial struggles forced her to leave school, closing doors at every turn. But these hardships only strengthened her resolve. She saw how the world failed women and children, and wanted to change that. The idea of becoming a writer began to take shape. Elizabeth was determined not to give up. Back in Pittsburgh, Elizabeth felt trapped by limited options. Frustrated by inequality, she devoured newspapers, longing to write real stories. A sexist article in the newspaper pushed her to action. She wrote a passionate letter as Lonely Orphan Girl, challenging the status quo. The editor, George Madden, was stunned by her words and published a notice seeking her. When Elizabeth appeared, he saw her determination and potential. In that moment, he offered her a job. It was the spark that ignited her legendary career. George Madden's offer was a lifeline for Elizabeth, a lonely orphan girl longing for a voice. Her debut article, The Girl Puzzle, argued for women's rights and exposed the struggles of working girls. Given the pen name Nellie Bly, she went undercover in factories, revealing harsh realities. Her articles shocked Pittsburgh and inspired change. Elizabeth had found her purpose. With her new identity as Nellie Bly, she found freedom, a pen name that let her be bold. She wrote for the forgotten, exposing injustice in the city's slums and factories. Her fearless reporting made a difference, but powerful men pushed back. Reassigned to trivial stories, Nellie knew her purpose was bigger. She needed a new stage. Nellie Bly refused to be limited to the women's pages. She craved real stories, not tea parties. At just 21, she traveled to Mexico, reporting on culture, poverty, and government corruption. Forced to flee for her safety, she returned home, more determined than ever, ready to take on New York and the world. Nellie Bly left her job in Pittsburgh, risking everything for New York. She arrived with big dreams, but faced rejection and poverty. Yet, Nellie refused to give up. Her daring idea, posing as insane to expose Blackwell's Island, finally opened the door. This was her chance to prove herself. Nellie Bly's first assignment was daring. She'd pretend to be insane and enter Blackwell's Island asylum. No reporter had ever gone inside. Disguised, she convinced everyone, from police to doctors, and was committed. Inside, Nellie observed everything, determined to expose the truth and give a voice to the forgotten. The real test had just begun. Life inside the asylum was worse than Nellie had imagined. The days began with a jarring wake-up call and ended with restless nights on thin, filthy mattresses. The air was heavy with the scent of illness and neglect. Food was barely edible, cold porridge, stale bread, and dirty water. Nellie forced herself to eat, knowing she had to stay strong to survive. She watched as women around her wasted away, their spirits broken by endless hunger and humiliation. The staff treated the patients with cruelty and indifference. Any sign of resistance was punished with icy baths or solitary confinement. She spent hours in cold, damp rooms, shivering in her thin dress. The nurses barked orders, rarely showing kindness or patience. Some women were violently restrained for the smallest outburst. Many of the patients were not mentally ill at all. Some were immigrants who spoke little English, others were simply poor or alone. Nellie realized that, once inside, there was little chance of escape. Her heart ached for these women, trapped and powerless, their pleas ignored by a system that should have protected them. She made friends with a few, comforting them as best she could, promising herself that their suffering would not be forgotten. To keep her mind sharp, Nellie observed every routine and memorized the layout of the asylum. She paid attention to the staff, who was kind, who was cruel. She watched as doctors made quick, careless diagnoses and nurses gossiped about their crazy patients. She noted the lack of medical care, the constant noise, and the despair etched on every face. Nellie also faced moments of fear for her own safety. She was unsure if her colleagues at the World would be able to get her out when the time came. Despite the terror, her resolve never wavered. After 10 long days, a lawyer sent by the World finally arrived. Nellie was released, but the sights, sounds, and smells of Blackwell's Island would haunt her forever. She emerged tired but determined. She had witnessed a hidden world of suffering and injustice. Now it was time to let the world know the truth. Once free, Nellie wasted no time writing her exposé. Her story was published in the New York World under the title 10 Days in a Madhouse. The articles were gripping, filled with vivid details and heartbreaking stories. Readers were stunned by what she revealed. They learned about the rotten food, the brutal nurses, the cold baths, and the innocent women imprisoned alongside the truly ill. Nellie's words painted a picture of a broken system where neglect and abuse flourished behind locked doors. The public reaction was explosive. Letters flooded the newspaper's office. People demanded answers from the city officials who oversaw the asylum. Nellie's investigation did not just create a sensation, it sparked real change. City authorities could not ignore the uproar. They launched a full-scale investigation into Blackwell's Island and other institutions. As a direct result, money was allocated to improve conditions, better food, new staff, cleaner facilities, and more careful admissions processes. Nellie Bly's work had forced those in power to face the consequences of their neglect. Women who had been forgotten were finally seen and heard. The reforms came quickly, making a real difference in the lives of future patients. Nellie became a household name. Her bravery was celebrated in editorials, and her story was reprinted across the country. She proved that one determined reporter could bring about real, lasting change. Her immersive approach to journalism became a model for others to follow. The idea that a reporter could enter a world, live the story, and then shine a light on injustice was revolutionary. Young women in particular were inspired by her courage. She made them believe that their voices could make a difference too. But for Nellie, success was bittersweet. She could never forget the faces of the women she left behind. Their pain stayed with her, fueling her drive to keep fighting for the vulnerable. Every news story she wrote, every cause she championed, carried the lessons she had learned inside Blackwell's Island. Her work was far from over. The asylum exposé was only the beginning. Nellie Bly was not content to rest on her achievements. She looked for new stories, always searching for ways to challenge injustice. She went undercover in factories, exposing the brutal conditions faced by women and children workers. She worked as a servant to reveal the hardships of domestic staff. Each assignment was dangerous, requiring her to blend in, observe, and report without being discovered. Her investigations often put her at risk, but Nellie's sense of mission was stronger than her fear. She wrote about crooked lobbyists, dishonest employment agencies, and the struggles of immigrants trying to build a better life. She tracked down missing people, reported on the lives of the poor in tenements, and even spent time in a women's jail to uncover corruption. No story was too small or too dangerous. Her writing was direct and filled with empathy. She spoke for those who could not speak for themselves and always held the powerful to account. For Nellie, journalism was not just a job, it was a calling. Her relentless pursuit of the truth earned her both admiration and enemies. Some accused her of sensationalism, but others recognized her as a pioneer. She broke new ground for women in journalism, showing that they could do the same tough, risky work as men, and often do it better. Her stories led to reforms in workplaces, jails, and hospitals. She became a symbol of fearless reporting, inspiring a new generation of women to enter the field. With every article, Nellie Bly changed the way people thought about journalism. She showed that the best journalism is not just about telling stories, it's about changing lives. Her courage, creativity, and compassion set a new standard. Her voice echoed far beyond her own era, opening doors for countless women and reshaping the world of news forever. After her undercover work, Nellie Bly sought a new challenge, racing around the world, inspired by Jules Verne's novel. She pitched the idea to her editors, beat Phileas Fogg's record. Packing light, she designed her own travel bag and set off. On November 14, 1889, Nellie boarded the steamship, the world watching as the clock began to tick. Nellie Bly's journey was a marvel. Steamships, trains, and fleeting stops across the globe. She crossed oceans, met Jules Verne, and raced home, exhausted but determined. Crowds cheered as she neared the finish, her story connecting fiction and reality, inspiring the world. On January 25, 1890, Nellie Bly's train pulled into Jersey City. An enormous crowd had gathered to welcome her, their cheers echoing through the station. Joseph Pulitzer himself was there to greet her. When she stepped off the train, looking triumphant despite her exhaustion, the official time was announced. She had circled the globe in 72 days, 6 hours, 11 minutes, and 14 seconds. She had not just beaten Phileas Fogg's fictional record, she had absolutely shattered it. The crowd erupted, celebrating the return of their heroine. Nellie Bly had done the impossible, and she had done it in style. The celebration was unlike anything New York had ever seen. A parade was held in her honor. She was the most famous woman in America, maybe even the world. Songs were written about her, board games were created based on her journey, and her face appeared on advertisements for everything from soap to sewing machines. She was a symbol of what a modern woman could achieve. She had proven that women were just as capable as men of undertaking great adventures, demonstrating courage, independence, and resilience. Her journey was a powerful statement against the restrictive roles society placed upon women. Her record-breaking trip had a lasting impact on journalism. It demonstrated the power of stunt journalism to capture the public's imagination and sell newspapers. The New York World had created a media spectacle that involved its readers directly, making them part of the story. This interactive approach was revolutionary and set a precedent for how major news events would be covered in the future. Nellie's dispatches, collected in her book Around the World in 72 Days, became a bestseller, cementing her status as a literary figure as well as a journalistic one. She had proven that a great story, well told, could captivate the entire world. For Nellie, the journey was the ultimate achievement. It combined her love of adventure with her talent for storytelling. While her undercover investigative work had changed laws and improved lives, her trip around the world changed perceptions. It expanded the possibilities for women everywhere. She had raced against time and won, but her true victory was in the inspiration she provided. She showed that with enough determination and courage, there were no limits to what a person could do. Nellie Bly was more than a reporter. She was a true pioneer, constantly pushing the boundaries of her world. Nellie Bly's fearless spirit transformed journalism. She didn't just report the news, she lived it. Her courage shattered stereotypes, opened doors for women, and proved a single voice can spark real change. Nellie Bly's legacy is a light that never fades. Nellie Bly's voice still echoes today. She broke barriers, gave voice to the voiceless, and inspired generations of women in journalism. Her courage, empathy, and relentless pursuit of truth changed her profession, and the world, forever. Her light has never faded. And now for a shout out to some of our subscriber friends. Shout out to our friend Caroline Jameson of Southern California, Nasurin Palkar, Payal Chopal, Geethu Ajo, Fahim Khan, and of course Mukesh Kumar.
Thank you for watching a Wise Hooter Learning video. If you would like a shout out at the end of a future video, please have your first name emailed to WiseHooterLearning@yahoo.com.